Bank to college.
My bank followed me to college.
I took my bank to college with me.
I took my bank to college with me.
It's that easy at First American National Bank.
On Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on TV 19, you can watch Manifest. That's Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on TV 19.
Welcome to Daryl's Little Corner. We'll be with you every Monday from 7 to 8 if you watch on TV 19. Now we're online, so I guess you watch it anytime. Somehow I always forget that. With me in the studio tonight is Bobby Jeter. Now, he's my nephew, and he claims Jerry. He claimed Jerry.
Yeah, I had to claim him.
You admit he was yours?
Yeah.
We give Jerry a hard time. We just, truly, he likes it. He does. He'll just laugh. But welcome to Daryl's Little Corner.
Well, I thank you.
Well, I'm proud you came tonight. It just, this is, it's a privilege to have you here.
You know, it's a
So,
privilege.
yes.
It's a privilege to be here. You know, you've asked me for a while now to do this, and you know, and I kept putting it off. It wasn't in my time, and it's God's timing. You know.
Oh no, I was going to stick Cheyenne on.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know. But I'm privileged to be here. But first, I want to say I want to give God all the.
Oh,
I don't want to give the devil no glory for anything that's happened in my life, and
That's right.
I want to say I'm sorry if I've ever hurt anyone or to anybody that I'd sold drugs to in the past. I want to say I'm sorry because I would intentionally never hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm 49 years old. I was born December 24th, 1973 to Miss Judy West. My mother was 14 years old when she had me. A year later, she had my brother. We lived with my grandparents. My grandparents were both alcoholics.
Uh-huh.
And 3 years later, DHS would come in and take me and my brother, my uncle, and one other from my grandmother and my mother. Well, I lived in the foster home for a year. Then they separated me and my brother. Well, my adopted father, Jerry Jeter, I have to give him, oh man, I can't say enough about him. I mean, he took me in and raised me as one of his own, like I was his own, what I consider to be his own, even though I'm not Jeter by blood. I'm a Jeter. You know?
Yeah, you are.
I mean, I can't say enough about him. I mean, but I want to start out. I lived in a pretty good home all my life. You know, I had a wonderful father. Now, me and my mother didn't have the best relationship, but I mean that's that's in the past, and you know we're gonna leave it there. But you know, I started out using alcohol at a very young age. I got a part-time job working with my older brother when I was like 14 years old. Wasn't supposed to be working, but got a part-time job, and that's where I was introduced to alcohol and drugs. I just started out drinking. Then I started smoking marijuana. Well, I did that all my life, just about. But I don't know. I just enjoyed doing it. The devil had me at a grips at a young age, you know, and I done it all my teenage years. You know, I met my wife when I was 16 years old. We started dating, and we dated until I was 19 years old. Well, I moved out of my parents' house at 18. When I turned 18, I moved out because I just didn't want to be there. You know. So when I moved out, I got married at 19 years old.
If I was slipping around doing drugs, I wouldn't want to live with a preacher.
No, no. I mean,
I mean, something to think about.
yeah. You know, I was in a preacher's home. My dad was a preacher. I mean, and I love him to death. I mean, there wasn't nothing he done. That's for sure. It wasn't nothing.
That's right.
Wasn't nothing there that caused me to do what I was doing. I just didn't. I tried it and I liked it, and then that's where it led
I
to.
tell you what, you parents listen up to this. So many times we say, "What did I do wrong? What have I done?"
Yeah.
Not necessarily you've done anything.
No, it's nothing that my parents done that caused me to start to drinking and using drugs. It's just a lot of kids my age at that time. A lot of people got hooked on drugs at that age. You wouldn't think it. A 14-year-old would get hooked on drinking or using marijuana or any other kind of drug at that
Oh
age.
yeah.
But they're starting young these days, and they did back in them days. Oh,
And you about got to do something to get the money to get it. They don't give that stuff away.
no. I met my wife. My wife was a church-going, God-loving young lady that never smoked a cigarette, never done anything. Me and her started dating, and I introduced her to alcohol, drugs, and I'm not proud of that at all. I mean, basically, whatever I did, she did it because she felt accepted, and I regret that a lot, because. But to say that, at 19 years old, I was introduced to methamphetamines. The devil knew he had me at that point. I mean, I started out back when we started doing it. I mean, the only way you could do it was either snort it. Well, we started out that way, and it went on up to a different way of using it. Well, my wife done it with me for 10 years, and she fell on after nearly ODing twice. She fell on her knees and gave it all to God, and and she thought I'd quit at the same time, but no, I hid it because I couldn't quit. It had me to the point. God took it away from her, and I wasn't ready to give it to God. She fell on her knees and gave it to God, and I didn't. Well, I hid it for the next 10 years. Well, yeah, 10 years better. 2012, I started IV using, and that's something I don't wish for no person to ever endure, because it'll take you to the darkest places you've never. I wasted so much time in life that I could have been spending with people that love me, but I spent it living in hell.
Tell us what that is. Oh, I've heard of that.
What?
That IV.
Needle. I got addicted to that needle, and it took me to.
I like needles.
I always said I'd never go there, but I did. That's where I got to where I couldn't get high doing it the way I was doing it, and I started using the needle. And
it's kind of like a snowball that starts out.
It is. It's a snowball effect that starts here, and
I worry about this medicinal marijuana because of it. Because people get started, I know if somebody's dying with cancer, they're not going to get addicted, and it gives them relief. And God made all things good.
Yeah.
Many years ago, am I in favor of it? No. But now, many years ago, we put paregoric in our babies' bottles for colic. And that's opium.
Yeah.
That's just pure opium. And we didn't even know it was. I read it on the ingredients on the package. I mean, it's pure opium, and everything. God created all things good. It's that we misuse them.
The way I
But it starts out small.
Everything
small
starts out
and
small.
And then grows.
And grows. It'll get to the point where you're not satisfied with this, and you go to this. Then you go to this. Then by the time you get to that, you're already in a mess that you can't. You're in a hog pen, and I was in a hog pen, I mean, I took, man, lie, cheat, steal, whatever. I mean, I wasn't never much. I never was a thief. But, I mean, anyway, if I'd have stayed on it, I would have probably.
Oh yeah.
That would have been the next. But
They do crazy stuff to get it, don't they?
Yes, it does. I mean, I got family members that was on it, and I'm talking about they've done burned all the bridges they could burn, and it just, man, it breaks my heart to see them to where they're at, because I know where they're at because I was there once.
That's right.
I'll never put you down for doing it. All I can do for you now is pray for you.
We always say we love the sinner, we hate the sin.
Yeah.
I hate the drugs, but I love the people.
For the people, yeah. I've never been a bad person, but I've done a lot of bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones, I never thought, well, I ain't hurt nobody. The ones I hurt the most was the ones that loved me.
That's right.
And you don't think about that when you're in active addiction.
That's right.
You don't think about, well, I'm hurting my wife, or I'm hurting my mother, my father, my son, my kids. I was thankful, I never let my son, I have a 27-year-old, and I never let him, he had an idea that we were using drugs, but I never done it in front of him.
Never knew it.
Well, mainly because he stayed with his grandparents on the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's always with my daddy. So, I mean, I kept him away from it, thank God for that.
Yes.
I mean,
I wondered about that, how it affected the children.
which I never let him do it. Like I said, I was a functional addict for many years.
Mm-hmm.
He never had to worry about groceries. His power never got turned off and all that,
Mm-hmm.
because I always worked. But what did I have to do? I had to sell my drugs in order to, and that's not right. Selling drugs is not right. I'm not trying to say.
No, and if you got caught that, then how would
Yeah.
that affect the children when you were
Well,
arrested?
that's right. I mean, we'll get to that too.
That affects the children.
Yeah, like I said, everybody, all my friends always ask me. They said, "What are you gonna do when Leslie, that's my wife, Leslie, when Leslie finds out that you're still doing drugs?" I said, "Well, we'll burn that bridge when we get there." And that's just the way an addict is. He's not gonna worry about what Jane thinks till Jane finds out what Jane.
Yeah.
But June of 2017, July, we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary in June, on June 5th of 2017. July 26th, 2017, I done been up 2 or 3 days, 4, I don't remember, but I done took some things that I shouldn't have taken, and I left the person's house, and instead of hanging left, go home, go back toward Ripley, I hung a right, went toward Benton County. I passed out in the middle of the highway over for about an hour and a half, and I had this person that parked behind me, thank God that they parked behind me to keep anybody from hitting me. And I finally woke up and drove off in the ditch. Well, I went to jail in Benton County, where I was raised up, where my father was a deputy over there.
Everybody knew it. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's very embarrassing. You'd have thought that'd been enough to, which they didn't find no drugs on me. So, I mean, I didn't get no drug charge out of it. Yeah, I got away with it that time. That happened in July. But coming with that, then I had to burn that bridge when Leslie come got me out of jail the next day. And I finally woke up 2 days later after being up, after I come down, I finally had to come to realization, I've got to burn this bridge today. And she asked me, and I told her, she said, are you cheating? She said, I want to know, are you on drugs or are you cheating on me? Which one is it? And I wasn't cheating on her, so I wasn't thinking that I was cheating on her. I said, it's the drugs. I said, I said a lot of hurtful things to her that day that I didn't mean. It was the drugs talking,
Well, when you're on drugs, you act terrible, don't you?
Yeah.
You act crazy.
I told her I didn't love her and hadn't loved her in a while, and
in fact, y'all split up at one time.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. That's where we're coming to now. Is the split up part.
I remember that. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, after 25 years of marriage, somebody has stuck behind me through thick and thin, through anything. She's never left my side. I mean, for no reason. And I told her that day, I was sitting on her mama's porch. I said, I don't love you. I ain't loved you in a long time like I should. I said, you thought I quit doing drugs 10, 12 years ago. I didn't. I've hid it for that many years. But I really hadn't hit it that long because she done, she done figured it out.
Yeah.
She just hadn't caught me.
Mhm.
Well, and I told her, I said, I know it's nothing you've done, but I'm gonna pack my bags, and I didn't have a vehicle because my vehicle was an impound from being
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the night before, so I didn't have no way of going. So I packed my bags, and I told her, I said, well, if I was to get it before the day's up, I'm gonna be high. I packed up my bags and walked out. Broke her heart. I'm talking about shattered the world. But it took me walking out and her letting me walk out to put me to where I'm at today. Now, I always hid it for all them years and thought that, hey, it was a fun and games hiding it. I really did. It was sick. I mean, that a person will get so twisted in their mind on drugs that they'll think, well, hiding it and sneaking out at night, coming back, and they not, and your spouse not even know you've ever been gone. And you've been out getting high.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and think
Probably
nobody knows.
everybody knows.
And,
Small town.
yeah, and I thought it was a game. I enjoyed playing it. Well, I said, well, now that I've walked out, I ain't got to play this game no more. I can do what I want to. But I'm going to tell you, that sent me into, that was the worst 9 months of my life I believe I've ever spent, was when I walked out on my wife. I didn't have to hide it no more, that's true. But I moved in with my son, which he knew, but I was his daddy and he wasn't going to let me do without a place to live.
Yeah.
But when you're laying there, and been laying there in the room for 2 or 3 days, and you think, I had all these friends, but where are they at now?
Yeah.
You find yourself staying in houses with no power, not wondering where you're going to get your next meal, not wondering, all you're waiting for is your next ride out to get high again. That's sad, but that's where I was at. I was at that point in my life, that I was a junkie. I was a full-blown junkie that thought I had no hope in life left. My wife let me walk out, but she said, God, she said, God, I'll let you take him out, break him down to bring him back. And that's what it took. 9 months, I say the end of 7 months, we started reconciling. And I done got to the point where I done come to realize, I was at about my bottom's end. Like I said, I went to jail in July. Well, January rolls around. I get paid on the 3rd. I went straight to the dope house. Bought me some more drugs. Went over to get my truck out of impound. And I was high. I was really messed up. Reached in my pocket to pull out a title out of my pocket and pull my drugs out in the floor. Yeah, I did.
That's it.
In an ex-lawman's house. I go down there to pick up my truck. Come back to top of the hill. Well, I got 2 big kind of laws sitting there waiting on me.
Oh, yeah.
I know that I was caught then. It was, and the bad part about that was, I dropped all that dope in that house, and the K9 unit, Miss Janet's partner, which I thank her every time I see her now, I hug her neck and tell her thank you for that day. But I dropped that dope in that house with her granddaughter in that house.
Oh, man.
I sat there when I went to jail, after I found out her granddaughter was in there, I thought, now what would have happened if that child would have got a hold of that?
Yeah, that adds on child endangerment.
Yeah, it could have. A lot of charges could have been added to that.
Yeah.
That didn't. But that was in January, and I had finally come to the point and realized that, hey, I needed help. I was done. That was in January. Well, I thought I was done. I was in January when I got arrested, and they put me in jail for 2 more days in Benton County again. That's 2 times in 6 months.
I always have to go back home.
Yeah. That's 2 times in 6 months that in a place that I was raised in when I
Yeah,
was a
that's
child,
embarrassing.
you know, and that's
Embarrassing.
really embarrassing. That judge, because I told him that day that
Worse than that, your dad was a lawman over
yeah, I lived in that jailhouse.
there.
And I'm thinking, I was, instead of the outside looking in, I was on the inside looking out. Yeah, that's not a good feeling, but
No, Jerry was police
yeah,
over there
yes,
for
he was.
years.
Yeah, I mean, I lived there in that jail, but
Oh.
it happened. Uh, it happened. But the judge over there, I admitted that I need help, and he dropped my bond from 10,000 to 5,000 just because I admitted I needed help.
Mhm.
Well, Leslie'd been on to me about finding a rehab. I always said rehab was for quitters. Well, I was ready to quit. And I'd looked up every rehab that I could even possibly imagine and couldn't get none of them. And finally, I got one. And they said, well, Mr. Jeter, they asked me, they said, how long have you been doing the drugs? And I said, about 25 years. They said, well, you need to come now.
It's not that easy to get in a rehab.
No, it's not.
People think, well,
Hey,
I'll just decide. It's
yeah.
not like that.
It's not like that. I had to thank God for that
Insurance
because
won't pay for it. I mean, it's hard to get somebody into rehab.
for a day and a half.
You got to find an opening.
Yeah.
An opening because they're full.
Well, see, my biggest thing was it wasn't that I couldn't find an opening; is that I couldn't find one around here that would do long term. Because I told them, I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm not one of these that need a short term. I don't need 30 days. I got to have 90 days or more because
go straightened out.
I said I need to get away. I mean, well, I called Oxford Treatment Center, and they said, well, we can get you in here today. And I said, oh, no. I said, I can't wait till the weekend. They said, no, you need to come on today. So I called Leslie, and she said, that woman told me, so you pack your bag and have your wife come get you. So I packed my bag, and still had to go out and get high one more time before I left to go to rehab. But after my last day of using any kind of dope was March 15th, 2018. I went to rehab, stayed 3 months. I was doing a 3 month thing. And I ended up leaving 15 days earlier because my father-in-law passed away and they wouldn't let me come home. And I said if I didn't get what I was going after in 75 days, I wasn't going to get it in the last 15. So I come on home. But, and that ain't, when I come home, I still had to face the charges that.
Tell me what they do in rehab.
Rehab, first thing is your absence away from doing drugs. But they learn you, because rehab learns you how to cope with life without drugs. When I found out in rehab that addiction is hereditary. I always thought, then I found out later on in life that my grandparents were both alcoholics, which I'm not saying it's their fault, but I mean, it's just runs in the genes. In the genes, but rehab is good if you want to get clean. But ain't no program, ain't no jail, ain't no rehab, no hospital or institution gonna keep you clean unless you want to stay clean. But you got to want it for yourself. I can't want it for you or anybody else. If I didn't want it for myself, I mean, I wouldn't be doing no good. Yeah. You got to want it, and I wanted it.
That's a hard thing for these parents, but you can't make your child.
No, I've seen many of them.
You can't make them do it.
That have come in and out of rehab, been in out of rehab 10 or 12 times. And I said, well, that's because, the parents send them there, and they use that rehab as a vacation.
Yeah. It's like let my nerves settle.
Yeah.
Because they drive crazy. It just
and rehab
parents
are not
feel so guilty, and we look at it from a parent's point. It's just heartbreaking.
But rehab to a lot of them, it's just a vacation. It's just, and that's why a lot of them younger ones treat it as a vacation. Yeah. And since I got out of rehab, I've had 5 friends that's dead now because they went back, and thought, just one more time.
I used to do jail ministry years ago, and you lead somebody, even lead them to the Lord, even I mean, a lot of times you go witness and you witness and you witness. But even when you succeed and this person prays and they're serious and they get their life together in jail, they have to make that decision again when they get out.
That's where they
'Cause
have
in
to
jail,
take
they
it with
might
them
not.
outside,
Yeah.
and instead of, because you see a lot of people have that jailhouse Jesus,
Uh-huh.
that they have Jesus when they get in there, but when they get out, they don't seem like they need
Yeah.
Jesus
They
no more.
walk away.
They walk
and
away.
It's like, well,
Then they end
go
up
back to what they did.
they end up in worse. I mean, because when a person goes back after using drugs or doing what he's doing for so many years, when he goes back, it's 10 times worse than it was the last time.
Well, the Bible says that when you turn back, it's 7 times worse.
Yeah, 7 times worse.
Yeah.
And
So it makes sense, doesn't it?
I come home from rehab, and and I stayed. Used to when I tell my wife that I was going to the store or something, I'd liable not be back for 3 or 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, when I come out of rehab for that first year, if I went to Dodge store, if I went to the grocery store, I'd call her when I got to the grocery store, and I call her when I leave the grocery store, and I go right back home. But I stayed at home for a year because I wasn't comfortable enough with myself to know that, because when you live in a small town like we do, you know everybody. My old saying is always, and that's the thing, people that are addicted to drugs, you have to change your people, places, and things.
Right.
You can't keep going and hanging out with old buddy that you used to get high with, because old saying is, if you go sit at the barbershop long enough, you get a haircut.
That's right. Absolutely.
I mean, you can't.
Absolutely.
You have to change your people, places, and things.
I know a young man that relocated when he decided, when he got ready to get right, he just relocated.
Yeah.
He left Tip County.
I mean, and sometimes you have to, but it don't matter where you go. I mean, if you ain't wanting to stay clean, you'll. I mean, that's like now. If I want to get high, I could be high for a day, but I choose not to, because the Lord is taking that away from me.
That's right.
And I stay in. I'm gonna tell you, when I got out of rehab, I still had to go to court and face the charges of that dope charge I had over in Benton County. I knew I still had that hanging over my head, so they put me in drug court. That's what, when I went to court, I wasn't going to plead not guilty, because I knew I was guilty.
Yeah.
There was no need. Yeah. I wasn't finna go with them for 12 years and lie. Then, I knew I was guilty. I mean, so I took what charge, I took what they gave me, and they gave me drug court, which I had to thank Judge Kelly Luther and Chris McAllister and several others in there. I mean, they really helped me out a lot, because I come out of rehab in June of 2018. I went to court in August. They gave me a drug court. I stayed in drug court from August to March 2018, March 15th, 2018. I'd been going to the Narcotics Anonymous meetings, because I had to have, I hadn't got into church yet. Yeah. God had been working in my life, but I still I wasn't ready to surrender it over to him. I was going to Narcotics Anonymous meeting, doing all my meetings. This, that, and the other. Never failed a drug test or anything during drug court. On my 1-year clean date, I was coming home from a Narcotics Anonymous meeting over in Boonville. Got right there at Hankins Sawmill. Had my heart attack. That was on a Friday night. Went down to Tippah County Hospital.
How'd you know?
Huh?
How'd you know?
What, that I had a heart attack? Because my chest started hurting and my arm went to hurting. And,
sometimes people don't know they're having a heart attack.
Yeah, I didn't know I was having a heart attack.
I was wondering about that.
But yeah, it just hit me all of a sudden, just pow. I'm talking about, my chest went to hurting, and everybody says, well, your left arm. My left arm never went to hurt. My right one did. It just hurt bad. And I got home, and then I got nauseated, and I felt in my neck. I told Lady, I said, well, I think I need to go to the hospital. I went down to Tippah County, and they done EKG and all. And they said, well, we're going to get a helicopter. We're going to fly you to Corinth and put a stent in. Well, flew me to Corinth on Friday night, put a stent in. that Saturday evening, they let me come home. They gave me some, Hollis is my pharmacy, and they gave me a prescription for blood thinner. Well, I wasn't feeling no better, and which, of course, the pharmacy was closed that Saturday and Sunday, so I wasn't able to get the blood thinners filled.
Yeah.
Well, that Monday I was still feeling bad, so I went back to Dr. South. She said, well, you need to go back to Corinth. Well, that was on the 21st of March, 2019. Went back to Corinth. They run one test. They told me you need to call your family and said it's really bad. You know, when they put me on that helicopter, you know, I had a lot of emotion. I mean, you know, went through my mind, and you know, I asked the Lord. You know, I got thinking, well, I could die. I'm finna die, and I asked the Lord to save my soul, forgive me for all my sin. But I was so distraught, you know, because after that, then I was thinking about my family, and I'll never forget that flight nurse. She told me, she said, Mr. Jeter, you got to calm down. And after I gave my life to the Lord and sat there for a minute, I had a calm come over me, just a peace. I mean, I was just like, you know, it's never happened. And she just sat there and rubbed my head, you know. And I remember when we landed at Baptist Children's Hospital, they pulled me out of the helicopter. And the surgeon was sitting there, and he said, well, you're still alive. And, you know, that's the last thing I remember. Well, my wife said that 4 hours in the surgery, they called her and told her, they said, Miss Jeter said, I don't think he's going to make it. He's bleeding out. And she said, I don't want to hear that. Said God brought him too far. Brought him out of too much to let him go like that. And praise God, I woke up 8 days later. You know, the surgeon, the cardiologist, and all had to just come in my room and just say, I just had to see him because, you know, you're a walking miracle. They gave me 1 out of 99% chance to live, and I woke up 8 days later. You know, I can't thank nobody but God.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely.
you know, I have to give God all the praise and glory. You know, and since then, you know, I gave my life over to the Lord. I've had so much. You know, well, I've been clean, be 6 years in March.
Praise the Lord.
And,
Wonderful, Bobby.
And I've regained so much in that 6 years. You know, the peace of mind that I have today is worth $1 million. It's worth more than any money on earth. You know, I couldn't put a value on my peace of mind that I have today, not knowing that I don't have to worry, and don't have to do this and do that. That all I have to do is give it to God.
Mm-hmm.
You know. You know, God, you know, God works in a mysterious way. You know, like I was saying earlier, you know, I was told one time, you know, you may not talk to God now, but you'll talk to God one day.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Bobby talked to God that night when we got in that helicopter.
Yeah.
And, you know, but God is so good, you know. I've got so much more today than I've ever had.
That's right.
You know, I thought of having fun, but man, there's no fun. There's nothing in life can compare to the peace and joy I have in my heart today because of what God has done for me. You know,
that's right.
You know, for 45 years, I never knew who my biological mother was. Church, the Overflow. You know, I passed the Overflow.
Where's it at?
Yeah, it's up here. Overflow up here across from Biscuit Steakhouse. We passed that church several times going home, and I always read the sign where the rejected are redeemed. And it always stuck in my mind. I never thought about it. And me and my wife, I said, well, we're going to go to this church one day and see how it is. And I'm going to tell you, folks, from the time I walked in that church, I felt the presence of God over me, and it told me right then, this is where you need to be. Yeah. Pastor Stephen Thomas and his wife Toby are over at church. Wonderful people. I have a wonderful church family. I love my daddy's church. Don't get me wrong. I love them to death. They're good people. But God, this is where God.
Sometimes the Lord doesn't exactly want us to be where maybe we want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you'd like to be with your family, but if God can use you over there, and He can use your testimony and your experience to bring others out of it, that's where you need to be.
Well, that's what I said. I always said, well, God's kept me here for a reason.
That's right.
And, and I never understood, I knew He had a reason for me, but I never really understood where and why, but I do now.
If you help one person.
That's right. If I can help one person to keep from going down the road that I went down.
That's right.
I mean, because, I am blessed to say that I because, in 2018 or 2017, when I left my wife, walked in on my wife, I went and took a life insurance policy out on myself because I done accepted the fact that, hey, I'm going to die with a needle in my arm.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah, it is.
That's really sad. I mean, but that's where my addiction had took me to. Mm-hmm. And if I could say something to keep one person from going down the road that I went down, hey, man, if one person, if I can just help one person, which I'd love to help thousands of people, but if I could just help one person to keep going down, and now today, since we've been going to the overflow for about 7 months now, and in that 7 months, I'm now the leader over the men's support group on Tuesday nights.
Right.
We have a men's.
Tell us what you do in this men's support group.
We have a women's and a men's support group. Miss, I can't even think of her name now, but anyways, men's and women's support group. We're there for anyone that, you wouldn't think of you'd have men that need the support group.
Why?
Like, you don't see anybody in Tippah County having that.
No, but why wouldn't men need the help?
Well, that's what I thought.
I mean, men fall on the face just like women do.
In my men's support group, I'm there for anybody that needs prayer.
That's right.
We'll sit there and I'll fix a pot of coffee and we'll sit there and we'll talk about, well, how'd your day go? Or, I usually pick something out of the Bible and we'll go on that. I look up men's spiritual topics, and I pick one topic a week, and I look it up. And we'll go from there and we'll read on that. But I'm there for any man that comes in there and needs somebody to talk to, needs somebody to pray with them, or just to be their friend. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't have that when I was getting clean. I didn't have that, and our women's support group is awesome too. I mean,
the Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a buddy, and somebody if they just want to drink so bad they can't stand, they can call.
Well, that's a sponsor,
and that's people need that. They need that.
Yeah, I don't mind giving them. Any man that comes in there, they got my phone number. Mm-hmm. I mean, if any time of day or night, it don't matter. If you call me, if I can help you, I'm not going to enable you in any way. But if I can help you,
that's right.
Pray for you, I will.
That's right.
I mean, because
I tell you what, I've given my phone number out on TV many a time because people call.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, and of course your main thing is somebody calls you and you pray with them. That's between them and Jesus. Everybody else don't need to know it. It's just private. And people, sometimes people just need somebody to pray with them.
Yeah.
That might be what you need to do.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
That is
wonderful.
I don't mind giving my phone number out. Like I said, we do. I do the men's support group. Well, the men and women both at 6 o'clock.
That's a ministry.
The women's is in the sanctuary at the church, and the men's is back there in the fellowship hall. Starts at 6 o'clock. My phone number is 662-587-6944. My name is Bobby Jeter, and if you just need someone to talk to or somebody to pray with you, or if you want to come join in on our men's support group, you're more than welcome. You ain't got to have a membership to be there. I mean, you can come straight in off the road. It don't matter.
That's right.
I mean, we're not going to turn nobody away.
Mhm.
I mean, because and I don't care if one shows up or none shows up. Bobby's going to be there because what if I didn't show up and that one needed me?
That's right.
That one
That's
needed
right.
me,
That's right.
And I feel that I have a testimony that I can give that will help somebody out because, I lived a long life that, God could have very well took me out at any time, but He
That's right.
chose to keep me
That's
here.
right. And if you just get up one morning and say, "Oh, I just can't feel God. I just can't," you can call Bobby or you can call me. And if you say, "Well, I don't want to tell my business to somebody else," a lot of people don't.
But
They
you know
don't.
something?
Then just send him a text message that says "me," and he'll pray.
That's
He'll
right.
pray. That it's not that we say me or him have any great power. We don't.
No,
Jesus has it all. God, it's God. It's not us.
it's not us. That's right. That's right. I mean,
But we're going to ask for you. And sometimes people need somebody to just lift them up.
yeah,
They do.
yeah. Somebody to encourage them.
If you want to talk, you call
Yeah.
and talk to him. And if you say, "Well, I just don't think I can talk about my business," and I've been there where I
I didn't
couldn't
want.
admit it to myself,
Yeah.
but I knew something was
Yeah.
wrong, and I wish I'd had somebody I could just call or just text him and say, "Me, just pray for me,"
Yeah.
uh, and nobody will ever know. Now I know Bobby. Nobody's ever gonna know you called.
No,
He don't have the mouth trouble.
no.
That's the hardest thing.
I was going
And-
to speak on that.
Yeah, this is a hard thing to admit when you're in the ministry, is that so many ministers have the mouth trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to be between you, the person, and Jesus.
That's why a lot of people don't want to
That's right.
tell the people, because they can't trust them enough to where it's just like
That's true.
like between me and you.
That's
If you
right.
tell me your problems, it's not for me to go out and tell the world.
No, it's not. It's
Only one I will tell your problems to is God.
That's right.
I mean, because it's nobody else's business. I mean, and I understand that. I mean, because there are a lot of people that don't want it because they've trusted so many people in their life or thought they could trust, and they tell them their problems, and the next thing you know, half of the county knows.
That's right.
And that's what keeps a lot of people out of your support groups and out of your things. That's like they tell you in Narcotics Anonymous meeting, whatever you talk about, it shouldn't, it ain't supposed to go out.
That's right.
But I've
It
seen,
does.
yes, yeah. But I mean, I can promise you, in our support groups, if whatever you speak, like if you come and you come to me, and ask me to pray for you or tell me your problem, I promise you, it's not going to go anywhere outside that building. If it gets told, you told it because,
That's right.
I don't mind praying for anybody.
I
because,
understand these preachers that do that because you feel that the spirit move and that excitement and that anointing, but you just got to keep it to yourself. You
Yeah.
can't just tell it all over town.
no, because
You're ruining people's lives instead
like
of
that,
helping
yeah,
them.
you'll keep more people out of your church
That's
than
right.
you do in it.
That's right.
I
I
mean,
remember one time years and years ago, I went and talked to my pastor, had a problem. I didn't have a problem, my husband had a problem. I went and talked to my pastor, and it beat me back home. Yeah. I just put it in the newspaper, and I thought, it broke me for years and years. I went and
Yeah,
talked to
yeah.
preachers. I just, but that's
But,
one thing I can say
everybody
about
needs
your
that.
dad. He don't talk.
yeah,
He don't
everybody needs a person they can go to and talk to
talk. Mhm.
because we're not all privileged to have somebody that
That's
we can,
right. Go to them and check them out. Tell them something and see if they
Yeah.
tell it.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
some little something and make
Yeah.
a big deal about it. Not that, Lord forgive me. I learned it through my experience. Make a big deal out of it that it's personal and private, and see if it is personal.
Yeah,
Then you'll know if you can trust them or not.
that's right.
That's awful that in our day and age we have to do
Yeah.
that, but we do. And I must say, my pastor is Bobby's dad, and he don't talk.
No,
He
he.
don't talk. I'll give you his phone number. Yes, because you can call him day or night. And he don't talk. He just prays.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
sure does.
Yeah. He gonna talk.
It's a world of difference when you got a pastor you can trust.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Bobby, what reaction did you have when they legalized marijuana?
Well, reaction I had on that. I think I'm not gonna say I'm against it, but I'm not gonna say I'm for it either. Because like you said, if you have a medical condition that it helps, then I'm somewhat say I agree with that. But 90% of the people that go in these medical dispensaries has not got a problem.
No, it's
Is they're wanting to get high.
misused.
It's you. If you're using it for a medical condition that helps you, but
I worked for the hospice and saw people that were dying with cancer and just in horrible pain. And yeah, if it would help them, I'm all for it.
for it.
But we're seeing people